Friends, I am a lifelong Spider-Man fan, and I can say without hesitation that he is my favorite superhero. Who amongst you didn't grow up a nerd, myself included, who felt different, intimidated, and too smart for their own good, just like Peter Parker? He was in all of us, a dorky outcast who longed to fit in, to be able to talk to girls, who underwent a dramatic change in his life that resulted in even more troubles, stress, and difficulty. And we all did the same. Now, maybe a millionaire in a Halloween mask didn't drop our first girlfriend off a bridge, but we did all become adults, grow into our own power, and learn that with that great power comes great responsibility.
And apparently, with great power means also not doing the dishes or vacuuming on a regular basis.
For over 60 years, Spider-Man has been an important part of people's lives, and as such, there's been many iterations of the character across tons of different types of media. Comic books, obviously, cartoons, TV shows, movies, video games, and lots more video games. But there's one interpretation of the character that for me stands head and shoulders above the rest. Welcome back to Space Castle, where our continuing mission is to search the universe for all things nerdy. I'm your Captain DT, and I am ready for all you nerds to come at me. I've got a bold take locked and loaded for this video, and it's one you're either going to totally agree with, or you're gonna crack your knuckles and start sharpening your knives. Either way, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. I am here today to talk about my favorite version of Spider-Man, his friends, his family, and his biggest villains. A translation of a character from the comics to a medium that has frequently struggled in the past to get all those things right. But a translation that I personally believe captures the spirit of Spider-Man and his mythos damn near perfectly. So I pitch this question to you, dear viewers and Galactonauts. Is Insomniac Spider-Man the very best version of Spider-Man? It was 2014 when Connie Booth, the Vice President of Product Development at Sony Interactive Entertainment, came to Insomniac Games to visit their CEO, Ted Price. Insomniac had just released Sunset Overdrive that year, and reviews were excellent. The game was a total blast and had a sense of locomotion and traversal that we hadn't really seen before, something that excited Sony and also Marvel. Now, around that time, Marvel had been releasing games as tie-ins to Marvel movies, which didn't really give the game developers much time to create something really polished and impactful.
Please! Someone! I'm going to die!
But Connie Booth insisted to Ted Price that that wouldn't be the case here. Insomniac's Marvel game would be all their own. They'd write a unique story based on the character of their choosing, and wouldn't be beholden to the release of another project. Now, initially, Insomniac's CEO Ted Price was kinda iffy on the idea. Insomniac had never created a licensed game before and instead focused on their own properties developed in-house, and were really successful doing so. But the rest of the teams there were thrilled at the idea of working on a Marvel game. And so, with the freedom to choose the subject, to write their own original story and leave their mark on the mythos of a legendary character, the team chose Spider-Man and went to work. Brian Intihar, who would become the creative director for Marvel's Spider-Man on PlayStation 4, stated that, "I feel like he's the most relatable of the heroes. As much as I love Tony Stark, it's harder to identify with a billionaire. As much as I love Thor, it's hard to identify with a god. Peter makes mistakes. He has ups and downs in his career, his relationships, his family. I think we can all relate to that." It was also the belief that the engine and traversal system developed for Sunset Overdrive would translate well to Spider-Man with some obvious changes and development. Brian Intihar would team with art director Jacinda Chu and writer John Paquette, who would all spend a great deal of time researching characters, designs, storylines, and consulting with Marvel directly to craft their own original Spider-Man story. Insomniac spent the next 4 years writing, developing, recording an all-star cast of veteran voice actors, and polishing their Spider-Man game while the world waited with bated breath. It was an exciting but massively daunting task for everybody involved, and it needed to be. This is Spider-Man we're talking about, one of the most recognizable and beloved icons of all time and a centerpiece in the world of pop culture. And they pulled it off amazingly, spectacularly, sensationally, and ultimately, I think possibly the best iteration of Spider-Man to date. It was finally released in July of 2018 as a PlayStation 4 exclusive, and it blew everybody's fucking minds. Okay, for starters, none of this would work without a strong voice cast. And that cast is anchored by veteran voice actor Yuri Lowenthal. Okay, I'm gonna say something kind of crazy. This might actually blow your mind, so let's take a brief interlude to prepare you mentally. I'm coming right out the gate and saying that Yuri Lowenthal's performance as Peter Parker is the best one ever committed to screen. I know that's wild, and people are going to say that Tobey Maguire takes it, or that Andrew Garfield is their Peter Parker, or that's an absolute shocker! That I didn't choose Christopher Daniel Barnes from the 1990s Spider-Man cartoon, but Yuri Lowenthal absolutely nails the cadence, the awkward confidence, the horror in seeing all these crazy beings take shape and wreck the city, but also with a twinge of scientific curiosity in how they came about and what makes them tick. He nails the fear that Peter deals with every day in failure of losing the people he loves. And when Peter inevitably does, Yuri's performance is nothing less than astounding, moving, and tragic. Yuri Lowenthal is to Spider-Man what Kevin Conroy is to Batman. I think it's a character-defining performance across these two Insomniac games, and I think it's wonderful that a whole generation of kids are going to grow up with him as their favorite Spider-Man. The cast surrounding him is nothing short of fantastic as well. Najee Jeter is wonderful and nuanced, and a blast as Miles Morales, who is also struggling with his own tragic past and the weight of being a young man in a world filled with superheroes and villains. Voice acting powerhouse Laura Bailey brings depth and sincerity and levels of relatability to Mary Jane Watson that honestly few other Spider-Man projects have been able to reach. She's a woman who loves someone who has to disappear at all hours of the day at night, can't hold a job because he's saving thousands of lives on a regular basis, and Bailey gives the performance of a realized human being who grapples with all of that, but also deals with conflicting emotions over it all as well. But, and this is a credit to the genius of Insomniac's writing team as well, Mary Jane in these games never comes off as either a two-dimensional accessory to Peter's life, nor does she come off as like a resentful, impatient, or even jealous figure to try and generate even more drama in Peter's already insane life. Lowenthal's chemistry with both Jeter as Miles and Bailey as Mary Jane form a trinity of excellent characters that hold up a pillar of wonderful performances across the board. And behind them is what any good superhero needs: a brilliant theme and score. Composer John Paisano was tapped for the impossible task of creating a brand new theme for one of the most iconic characters of all time, and he fucking nailed it. A rousing, bombastic, heroic theme that I've spent the last 5 years humming in the shower, the car, while at my desk at work, and a theme and a soundtrack that I put on anytime I need a pick-me-up or inspiration. Paisano's got a serious knack for superhero themes. He was also responsible for the theme to Netflix's Daredevil, another track that has become damn near synonymous with its titular character. Frankly, it's insane that Marvel Studios haven't tapped him to compose scores for the MCU. If we're being entirely honest, the only hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that has a memorable theme is Doctor Strange. And that's damn near criminal. Paisano was of course tapped once again to score Spider-Man Miles Morales, where he created yet another fantastic theme that captured the spirit and essence of a young hero from Brooklyn, coming to terms with being part of a huge, dangerous world, and finding his own confidence and swagger within it. With Spider-Man 2, Paisano effortlessly and seamlessly weaves between the themes he created for both Spider-Men, and I cannot wait to see what he does with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in 2024, and eventually Spider-Man 3 for probably the PlayStation 6 at this rate.
Yes, I cannot wait to hear you spend nights awake crying because you can't find a PlayStation 6.
The reverence and care that Insomniac has put into making these Spider-Man games is admirable, and so appreciated. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, and the amount of time and love put into crafting these stories exceeds that of pretty much any version of Spider-Man to date. Now, I love the first two Sam Raimi movies, but they're kind of all over the place in terms of tone. The movies starring Andrew Garfield are kind of a disaster. What? And I'm really not that big of a fan of the MCU's take on Spider-Man either. I think the Russo brothers nailed the character with Civil War, and Marvel took it from there and created a Spider-Man that really has no sense of identity of his own.
I just wanted to be like you. And I wanted you to be better.
Now don't get me wrong, each of the actors who have played Peter in live action have given it their all and provided really solid performances. But I think it's the freedom that Insomniac has had with Spider-Man that has allowed them to craft such great stories and get such wonderful performances out of their actors. The way Insomniac has woven different eras and aspects of the Spider-Man mythos into what is frankly a miraculously cohesive narrative is staggering. Heroes and villains come and go through the story, each with their own significant bit to play, a piece of the overall puzzle, leading up to a thriller of a third act and often a beautiful mix of relief, joy, and even sadness. And yeah, I'll be the first to admit that there's so much more room to do that with a 20-hour video game versus a 2-hour movie or a 6-hour trilogy. But if you told me, someone who grew up in the era of Schumacher Batman movies, that someone would come along and craft a story featuring not only Venom, but Kraven the Hunter and the Lizard, and it would not only tie together really well, but also be really f***ing engaging, I'd say you're crazy. A combination of both the classic symbiote storyline with that of Ultimate Spider-Man, with Harry Osborn as Venom, would have made any Spider-Man fan cringe if it weren't for the fact that we already got 2 fantastic Spider-Man games from Insomniac prior. And how crazy is it that a game would feature not only 2 Spider-Men, a group of supporting heroes and villains, also the best web-swinging and perhaps the best traversal system we've ever seen in a game, period. And that it would make us laugh, cry, pump our fists in the air, and immediately want to play it again? Insomniac has done the impossible. We've seen hundreds of video games that play well and also have awesome stories, but so few that also create an excellent original story based on one of the most recognizable and beloved characters ever. The pressure of taking on such a project has crushed other game studios, and doing so under the critical eye of comic book fans who, let's be honest, we are not the easiest going bunch, and to do it 3 times over, that's just f***ing nuts. And to do it all in such a way that crafted my favorite iteration of my favorite superhero ever. And this isn't even some like lightning in a bottle situation. There is some goddamn magic happening over at Insomniac, and I cannot wait to see what they do next. I cannot wait to see how they take the legacy of Wolverine and turn it into something new and fresh and amazing. I wish that they had the ability to do X-Men and Fantastic Four and a much needed do-over of the Avengers. But at the same time, I just want them to keep doing what they love and keep creating games and stories that I love too. Insomniac, take all the time you want and need in making Spider-Man 3. We've got enough great Spider-Man and no doubt Wolverine to keep us busy until you're ready. So is Insomniac Spider-Man your favorite take on the character as well? Are you in the same boat as me where you think they did an excellent job of combining so many decades of storylines and history into one awesome package? Leave a comment down below and let's start a conversation about this kick-ass franchise. Or tell me about how Andrew Garfield is your favorite Spider-Man and we can have a friendly debate on the subject. And please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. It really does help keep the Space Castle going in our continuing mission to search the universe for all things nerdy. And if you want to take it a step further, consider enlisting in the Galactonaut crew at patreon.com/spacecastleshow. These awesome folks have done so, and they get to enjoy all kinds of perks and bonus content. Either way, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me gush about Insomniac Spider-Man franchise. I really do appreciate you spending a few minutes hanging out with me while I float through deep space. This is your Captain DT signing off and saying, fuck you racists. Miles Morales is Spider-Man.